course to steer, practice problem 4. Let's get into it. Course to steer, practice problem 4. We read it. While on course 138 true, a light bears 14 degrees on the starboard bow at a distance of 8.6 miles. Pull our information. It gives us the course. What did the course equal? 138 true. 138 degrees true. The light bears 14 degrees on the starboard bow. It gives us a bearing. Our bearing is equal to 14 degrees on starboard bow. Okay. And the distance, at a distance of 8.6 miles. So the distance to that bearing is 8.6 nautical miles. What course should you steer to pass 3 miles abeam of the light, leaving it to starboard? What course should you steer? So it wants to know course to steer. This is the big question we're answering. To pass the light 3 miles abeam to starboard. So that gives us a distance there, doesn't it? Distance abeam is equal to 3 miles. I write nautical miles as just a habit I have. And at which side do we want to leave that light on? Leaving it to starboard. We want to leave it to starboard. This to starboard and it's on starboard and to starboard, they're important. So now we make a triangle. The first step, we make our triangle. We're headed 138. What's this? 180, 90, 138 is somewhere in here. I just like to stay kind of in the proper quadrant of this thing. Okay, and we sight a light over here. And how far away is it? 8.6. What do we want? Where do we want this light eventually? 3 nautical miles to starboard. So what do? Where's our next line? We want to leave that light to starboard. So that's our starboard side. We're going to be over here. Okay. And we leave it to starboard abeam, right? That means that if this is perfectly abeam, that means that's 90 degrees. And now we're given 2 sides of this triangle. 8.6 miles to the bearing. So we have 8.6 miles from where we saw it to that light. And then we have 3 nautical miles to starboard. Boom, 3 nautical miles to starboard. What we really want to find, though, is this angle. We're going to call this angle theta. To get theta, we just use a little formula, and we say this. Theta equals sine -1 times opposite over hypotenuse. And what's the opposite? Well, it's all relative to this angle. Opposite is 3. That equals the opposite. What is the hypotenuse? The hypotenuse is the longest side of this triangle, and it's across from the 90 degrees. So the hypotenuse is equal to 8.6, and we plug in our numbers. So now we can say sine -1, opposite 3, divided by hypotenuse 8.6. What does that equal? Well, theta is going to equal whatever our calculator tells us it equals. And we say second sine -1 of 3 divided by 8.6. 3 divided by 8.6 equals 20.4. We'll round that to 20 because that 0.4 is less than 0.5. Anything 0.5 or higher, we round up. This is 0.4, so we'll just leave it at 20. Theta equals 20 degrees. Now we have all the information to find our course to steer. We started 138. So we were on course 138. We spotted this light 8.6 miles away, 14 degrees on R on starboard. So if we're at 138, Let's just draw a little diagram, right? Here's a compass rose. You know this is 90, and this is 180. This is 0. And we're at 138. And this thing is 14 degrees on our starboard. What do we have to do? We correct down. So we're going from 90 towards 180. We're going to add. So we add this 14 on starboard. 14 degrees on starboard. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 3, 4, 5. 1 comes down. Now we're at 152. And we have this 20 degrees that we have to account for. What do we do with that? We added this one. But if we leave that thing to starboard, so now we're here, we're pointed right at our light, and we need to leave it to starboard. What do? We correct our course this way. So we're correcting this way. What's happening? We're going towards 90. We're going to subtract. This is actually the hardest part of this problem, is keeping straight if you add or subtract these. It's not this. This is not the hard part. This is just doot, doot, doot. This is hard. This is how you keep it straight. So 152, we leave it to starboard, so we're correcting this way. Minus 20, 2 minus 0 is 2. 5 minus 2 is 3. 1 minus 0 is 132 degrees true, equals the course to steer. Let's look. Practice problem 4. Yeah, I see a 132. 4 equals 132. Now, let's check to make sure it was B. Yep, I can confirm 4 is B, just like we figured. That's practice problem 4. We're going on to 5. That's the last one, and then there's 2 of them to solve on your own. The good news is these problems, it's the same steps, just over and over and over again. This seems like it'd be the hard part. It's not. This is the hard part. You have to visualize. Lay your pencil on the compass rose and move it around and kind of visualize if you add or subtract these bearings, this bearing and this correction. On to 5.